Hello and welcome to this channel which is called English Decoded. I've brought to you a series of video lectures in which I'll be explaining English grammar and composition. So let's start the first video. What is the difference between grammar and composition? We often hear these words together. Are these words interchangeable? No, these words are not interchangeable. Grammar and composition, they are two separate words. They often come together because they come under the wider ambit of the English language, but they are different words. So what is the difference between grammar and composition? Let's dive into it. Grammar. What is grammar? The set of rules that govern how we structure words, phrases, and sentences. Grammar is nothing but a set of rules. Let me explain it. When you open a book, an English book, what do you see? You see lots and lots of words. It's full of words. These words are divided into various categories. It is the job of grammar to name those categories. Naming those categories of words is the job of grammar. Further, grammar also tells us how these words are combined to form phrases and how those phrases are combined to form sentences. So this is the job of grammar. Grammar tells us the names of those categories of words, and it also tells us about the functions of these categories, the functions of these words. Grammar focuses on sentence structure. Grammar's primary focus is on the sentence, because a sentence is a group of words that make sense. So we have to make sense in a language. A language is a language because it makes sense. What is a sentence? There are many elements of a sentence: subject, verb, object. How to arrange these elements of a sentence, that's the job of grammar. There are rules provided by grammar that tells us how to cater for the structure of a sentence, how to arrange, how to manage, how to correctly arrange words into a proper sentence. Second, parts of speech, words. In the beginning of the lecture, I told you that English language is nothing but a collection of words. These words are divided into different categories. These categories are called parts of speech. For example, nouns, verbs, and adjectives. These nouns and verbs and adjectives, when we study them, they are introduced to us by grammar. Furthermore, tenses, punctuation, agreement, words, orders, all of these rules that tell us about the tense of a verb, punctuations, agreements of words, word order. Grammar has two main functions. It names the different categories of words. And second, grammar has a lot of rules. These rules tell us about how these words are arranged together, how these words are arranged to form phrases, and how these phrases are arranged to form sentences. Those sentences which make sense. This is grammar. For example, knowing that she go to school should be she goes to school is grammar. We have an example of two sentences, she go to school, and the second one is she goes to school. If we know the grammar, if we have studied the grammar, we shall know that the second sentence is correct and the first sentence is wrong, is incorrect. Because in grammar, we must have studied this rule that in the present indefinite tense, whenever the subject is a singular pronoun, the verb must have an S at the end of it. The first form of verb must have an S at the end of it, or ES at the end of it. So she go to school is wrong and she goes to school is correct. That is grammar. What is composition? How is it different from grammar? The process and art of writing, putting ideas together to form coherent and meaningful texts. That is composition. Composition is the use of all the grammatical rules and all the knowledge of grammar that we have learned beforehand to produce language, to produce a piece of speech. whether that piece is a story, a novel, an essay, a poem, an article, a news article, a research paper. That is composition. Once you have learned grammar, all the rules, all the instructions, all the categories, all the names, now it's time to use all that knowledge to produce language, either written or spoken. So grammar is primary, composition is secondary. Once you have learned grammar, then you come to compose a language. Then you come to the composition. Then you come to write a story, write a book, write an essay, write a research paper, write a news article. That's composition. Composition focuses on, what does composition focus on? What is composition all about? It focuses on organization of ideas. When you are producing language, whether it's an essay or a story, etc., you have to have ideas, and those ideas have to be in an orderly sequence. So in composition, we also focus on the organization of ideas. Paragraph structure. In essays, in stories, in novels, in books, in all kinds of compositions, there are paragraphs, and composition focuses on the structure of those paragraphs, how those paragraphs are to be structured so that they are coherent and cohesive. Style, tone, and purpose. Well, style, tone, and purpose is up to the author of a story or an essay, but composition also tells us about how these cannot be ignored. You have to focus on your style, on your tone, and your purpose when you are producing a piece of language, whether it's an essay or a story or a book or something else. For example, writing an essay about your favorite book is composition. With an introduction, it has a body, and it has a conclusion. Thinking about an essay in terms of its introduction, its body, and its conclusion comes under the ambit of composition. In the end, let's summarize the lecture. Grammar and composition, they are not the same thing. They are two different words having two different meanings. They are about two different fields. Grammar is the set of rules of a language that tells us the names of different categories of words and the functions of those categories of words, while composition is the use of the knowledge of grammar, of those instructions, in order to produce a piece of language, whether it's an essay, a story, a book, a news article, or anything else. That's all for today.